Blaster gun incoming!
I said no blaster fire!
Tell that to them!
Now, it's universally known that the term infested carries a negative connotation behind it, normally referring to a location containing unwanted inhabitants that can create a larger issue to the environment down the line.
I understood that reference.
And when applied to this episode and the running narrative, you can see it carries a triple meaning. The episode introduces the infestation as clearly a group of creatures that dwell within the caves of Ord Mantell, and then the second meaning pertains to the group led by Roland Durand, who's attempting a hostile takeover of Sid's land in order to acquire control over the hyperspace routes used by the resurfacing Pike Syndicate as a means to catch them in a barrel. We'll see that this method backfires, but before we get to that, I think it's fair to say, and almost unanimously felt, that this episode is the third infestation to the entire season as a whole.
That is one big pile of shit.
I've always tried to maintain a belief that Filoni and co have a plan for everything they do, but in this instance, I can't ascertain as to what they intend to do with this. Before I rant on any further, let me explain what occurs and then we'll get into that. This should be relatively quick, so hold on.
That's what she said!
We open on the crew returning to Ord Mantell, having just completed another mission, when they see that Sid's bar is suddenly overrun by a peculiar looking soldier.
Well, no shit.
Once they arrive in Sid's office, they're greeted by the latest face from the underworld, Roland Durand.
Who?
He's forced Sid out and is there to try and establish dominance and a strong footing on the hyperspace lanes that the Pike Syndicate use for their smuggling operations.
Yeah, I don't know.
After a brief back and forth between Hunter and Roland, he decides that they need to get the fuck out of there, but Omega convinces them to stay and help out Sid. Sid is waiting on board the Marauder to inform them of what the deal is, and plans to steal the spice from Roland to set him up against the Pikes.
Not a great plan.
They make their way through an underground passage where Sid smuggles them behind the back of a bar using an old smuggler's carriageway that was clearly used specifically for these type of acts, deepening the history to Ord Mantell. Once they arrive at her office, they retrieve the spice and get out of there. As they're crawling their way back through, Roland sees that it's gone and sends his men down to retrieve it. After a chase occurs and a disturbance to the crater erupts all the bats from below, they make it out but lose much of the spice and leave Roland to deal with the Pikes. As the crew and Sid go back to the bar in the hopes that everything's been resolved, they run into the Pikes, who demand that they cough up the crates of dust that they took and take Omega as collateral for now, while they venture back into the caverns and retrieve the missing cases of spice. They agree, and after a few mishaps, they retrieve the spice and make their way back to the bar. As they deliver the spice, the Pikes leave a rather profound message on the head of Roland by taking one of the horns from his head as punishment for his transgressions. We close on Roland parting way with the crew and apologises for what happened before. As it is right now, this episode has no place being where it is in the series, as we've yet to receive any follow-up right now in Season 2 or any other form of media from Star Wars, and I'm left wondering what was the purpose of this. The only justifications that I can truly see for this episode being here, and this is seriously reaching up my ass to pull out an excuse, is firstly to redeploy the Pikes into the galactic underworld and generate some visible competition with possible links to Crimson Dawn and at a stretch Darth Maul. If you've forgotten, let me remind you real quick, during Season 5 of the Clone Wars, Maul's return and rise to prominence aligned him with the Pikes in an effort to overthrow the Mandalorian rule of Duchess Satine and put Pre Vizsla in power, which he would go on to later challenge and win, claiming the throne of Mandalore, where he began operations to fuel further spice trading in his partnership with the Pikes. Alongside the Pikes and the Mandalorians, he built an alliance with the Black Sun and Jabba the Hutt too, collectively referring to their partnership as Crimson Dawn. Toward the end of the war, however, as seen in the Siege of Mandalore arc, Maul informs the Syndicate leaders, which includes the Pikes, to go into hiding until he's figured out the next move. From here, we actually don't know what became of the parties involved or what Maul did before Rebels, but we can see this as the first public play for control from the Pikes. Whether they're operating under his instruction or not is another question entirely. They obviously want to rebuild the reputation they had prior to their alliance with Maul and make that point clear by how they deal with Roland. but unless they plan to unify Crimson Dawn again before the events of Solo: A Star Wars Story, which picks up chronologically and for now at least is the last time the group is acknowledged, as Maul never references them in Rebels, I'm stuck scratching my head as to why we have this installment. The only other possible reason that I can think of would be to fully introduce the Batchers to the waters that they're dipping their toes in, and provide an example of how lethal it can be to involve yourself in the dirty dealings of the underworld. I can appreciate all that if these were the intended reasons for this episode, but it really does miss the mark. There wasn't anything overtly exciting, immersive, or even engaging with the plot for this one. By the time of current day events, we've had a little more time with Sid at this point, but it was just frustrating to cut off the momentum that we had following the previous episode with Crosshair being given the green light to hunt his former squad, to suddenly searching for spice in the fucking Batcave. I don't like to say that an episode was wasted or that any potential wasn't worth it, which is why I'm trying to pull reasons out of my ass for why this episode exists, but for what we've currently seen in Season 2, it doesn't feel like we're even returning to this at any point, and there's part of me that doesn't want it to. I wasn't left compelled to understand any more of Roland despite what they did for his character in trying to humanise his actions as a merely misguided attempt to make his mother proud, to expand on her empire in the hopes of ruling it one day, and that also he's an avid animal lover. But truly, this didn't leave much to the imagination, as you've explained clearly who he is, his ambitions and motivations. The only question from this is, what does he do next? According to Sid, in a means to get the Pikes to back down admittedly, she explains that his mother is not the one you want to fuck with, and is as equally powerful as the Pikes, which has the possibility to be true, but I still don't care. And it obviously doesn't give much insight into what his next moves could be, though I imagine Mummy would have a few things to say following this.
I think we should just be friends.
Mother.
To watch the Batchers basically clean up another one of Sid's messes is a running trend through the show, and something we'll just have to get used to at this point. But in the heat of it all, particularly between the last episode and what comes next, this was quite possibly the biggest dud the show has had. To offer up the bats as a threat for the crew just felt like a fly that's buzzing around the room in the heat of the summer. It's a distraction, it's just fucking annoying. The character work was alright, and we got a better understanding of the relationship between Sid and Omega, and certainly figured out what Sid's concerns generally are. To also witness the kindred spirit that Omega possesses that fuels her interest in protecting someone that she barely even knows is a solid reminder of the good that is in the galaxy and what this show could actually do to re-establish certain characters, and establish characters like Omega. I did enjoy seeing some darker themes being worked into this, even to the point of the Pikes taking a physical trophy in a mob crime family way to remind Roland what will happen should you cross them again. The episode was decently acted. Particular credit has to go to Dee Bradley's work with Wrecker in this moment. But that's honestly as far as the compliments can extend. I feel for now that this is a passable experience. It doesn't offer up anything contextually for the future, and personally, I've not been interested to go back and rewatch this until now for this review. The only thing that you could have done to have won me over with this is to have firmly re-established Crimson Dawn as a legitimate threat in the galaxy once again going forward, and put them up against the Batchers and show them steadily playing a game of chess with the underworld. Or make it clear as day, bring Maul back. Maul is a presence that doesn't require a laser sword to win. He's like Rampart in his own ways. He's a cerebral assassin who can manipulate a situation to his benefit in a fashion almost akin to Palpatine, and would have likely become the biggest talking point of the season had he appeared. If you'd like to express your own opinions regarding this episode, then please be my guest. Check it out at least, but I'm not left recommending this episode to anybody, as it really is just a passable experience right now. That's all I've got regarding this episode, however. I appreciated you stopping by. If you like this, click the thumbs up button, slap that subscribe on the arse, and until next time, take care everyone, and may the Force be with you.